So a new survey explores women's sentiments about their gynecologic exam, and the results may surprise you. The survey touches on everything from how women prepare for their appointment to the distractions that may prevent them from having an important conversation with their healthcare providers. Here to talk about the survey and to help clarify confusion over the types of tests women should be getting are Melanie Notkin, author of popular book Otherhood, and Amy Holland, women's health nurse practitioner and member of the National Association of Nurse Practitioners in Women's Health. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thank you.
So, Melanie, can you tell us a little bit more about the survey and its findings?
I sure can. In fact, I'm excited to tell you about them because I think, frankly, they're a little funny. We found that women are spending a lot of time preparing for their gynecological exam. Like 85% of us wake up in the morning thinking already about, maybe we should spend a little more time in the bath or shower. In fact, 7 out of 10 of us do. And on average, it's an additional 7 minutes that we're spending getting all cleaned up for our appointment. And then we're thinking, wait a minute, what underwear should I wear? The granny panties? In fact, yes.
That's funny.
8 out of 10 of us are wearing granny panties and not lingerie, which, by the way, hilarious and ironic because 4 out of 5 of us, once we're there, then hide those underwear underneath our clothing. So like, why did we even bother spending that time? And then we know 79% of us get to the exam room, and then all of a sudden we're thinking about, should I go to ladies' room? That's me. I always do that. And then we're thinking, wait a minute, should I leave my socks on? 4 out of 5 of us decide to leave our socks on so that we keep our feet warm and cozy in the stirrups while we put on our robes. But then 55% of us thinking, does it go in the back? Or 45% thinks it goes in the front. But 20% of us, very smart, we're thinking about how to accessorize. So, yeah, those are some of the findings. We also learned, however, that some women are spending a lot of time thinking about how to prepare for the exam in terms of getting cleaned up and what they're going to wear, and not so much on the conversation that they're going to have with their healthcare provider, and not enough on the questions that they should prepare to ask that healthcare provider.
Very important point. Amy, from your perspective, were there any results that gave you cause for concern?
Ironically, yes. It was surprising to learn that women prepare for their gynecological annual exam, but not in the way that I would think they would. As a women's health nurse practitioner, I thought women wrote down questions pertaining to what am I at risk for, how can I prevent certain things such as cervical cancer. But that's not the case, however, based on the answers our responders gave. In addition, I found it ironic that women have good intentions to ask about certain topics such as their sex life, such as how can I prevent things. However, they don't follow through. Only about 40% of the responders said they actually follow through. So I found that ironic. And as a nurse practitioner and a provider of women's health, that tells me that it's so important that I ask questions such as, what's important to you? What questions do you have about your health today? I would like to, if possible, give a shout out to the National Association of Nurse Practitioners in Women's Health, healthywomen.org, and Hologic for inviting Melanie and myself to meet with you today and educate and empower your viewers.
Sure thing. So, Melanie, do you personally relate to any of the findings from the survey? And if so, can you kind of paint us a picture?
I sure can. First, some of the embarrassing things, like making sure that I'm all clean down there and maybe a little shave. Like I am doing my best to be prepared. But I also relate to, especially when I was in my 20s, not sharing what was on my mind about my reproductive health, my sexual health, my health in general. And I didn't necessarily know the questions to ask. And I wasn't always secure enough to realize that maybe that healthcare provider wasn't right for me, if they didn't respond to my questions, or they didn't give me an opportunity to ask the questions. I was kind of shy about asking the right questions, and I didn't know. I hadn't even heard of HPV. It's much more common now, but I hadn't even heard of it. I mean, common is a phrase. Than I now know. I mean, it's much more. We've all heard of it. Many of us have heard of it. So, yeah, I mean, I related to both sides of it. How we prepare. Although I have to admit, I don't know that I actually own granny panties, but how we prepare. But also, then once we're there, the questions that we're not asking, and what is so important to me, and part of my work is that I'm such a champion of women and women empowering themselves to tell their true stories. And I don't know that women are telling their true stories when they get to the exam. And here's the thing, cervical cancer screening is relatively easy. Go to the appointment and make sure you're asking the right questions. It could save your life. It's just that simple.
Really critical points. And after really thinking through our preparation, Amy, help us clear up the confusion. Talk to us about the specific tests and screening. What kind of cervical cancer tests do women really need, and why?
Yeah, it's been kind of confusing over the past couple years with the changes in the guidelines. So I'd like to start out by saying women need an annual exam with their women's health provider every single year. That's why it's called an annual. So important. Women 21 to 29 need a Pap test every 3 years. Women 30 to 65 need a Pap plus HPV together test every 5 years. It's the provider's responsibility to keep up with what's needed. It's the woman's responsibility to keep that annual exam so that she can ask the important questions relating to her health.
Okay, so thank you both. And in our final minute together, what additional tips do you have for women to better engage with their healthcare providers?
Well, I would say that, we want to, as we should, trust our healthcare provider, but we also just want to make sure, make sure that if you are 30 to 65, that you are getting that PAP plus HPV together test, that you're not just assuming what cancer screenings you're getting, to make sure that you are, and to follow up with your doctor afterward or your healthcare provider afterward if you have any additional questions. And go to healthywomen.org. There's so much information there, and if you're wondering, I'm ready to have that conversation, but I don't even know what to ask. Look at the answers and then add your additional questions to that. Get the information, then you'll know what questions are right for you so that you're getting the right information.
Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Thanks
you
so much.